We're back, Seraphiend podcast, and I knew that this was going to happen because I love this woman, and our relationship is so multi-layered, and it's so beautiful because it just keeps unfolding, and every time I talk to her, it's so badass. So, Phiending For More with Cara quickly. So, hello, back. I'm just in a Cure t-shirt now because my perimenopause was sweating through everything of that other thing I was wearing. So, we started out a little bit what I call not practical, like usually like I give the bio and whatever. And now I'd like you to I'm going to basically like kind of hand it over to you. And I'm going to ask you with this little time capsule, which is now going into our second drink. Cheers to truly.
Right, double fisted for a second, for sure.
Love it that you make me feel like I'm like one of those, mama needs a little medicine. I'm not a mom. I've got a dog, but I will take that quote from Gwyneth Paltrow and Cameron Diaz. They were talking about her new Aveline wine, and they were talking about rosé, and they both like raised their glass and they're like, mama needs her medicine. And I'm like, okay, you definitely need your medicine because you actually do have a child. So talk to me. I'm just throwing it to you. I'm not even going to set it up.
What?
I'm not even going to set it up.
No, you have to.
Okay.
I could go any direction.
Okay.
That's a dangerous thing to do to me.
All right.
Give me some direction.
So how I'm going to set it up is that why, first I'm going to just ask you, why be friends with me? What do I bring to your life? I'm going to do that. It's going to be about me first. And I'm going to ask you, what about yourself? Like when you're friends with me, what do you feel like? Fuck. All right. Like, because I look at you like you are this scholar, wisdom woman. Like if I look at tarot cards, like you're like the freaking mysticism, like goddess in the robes. Like that's who you are to me. Like when I think about when we have conversations. So when I talk to you, I kind of feel like the fool in the tarot cards with you. So I'm always like, okay, I'm going to go to you, the person who's in the robes, who's like, all right, I know. So that's how I see you. Okay. So I want to like flip the script with you.
You can keep seeing me that way all you want. I know nothing. All I think about is how much I don't know. Actually, I'm consumed with my own ignorance. When I hang out with you, when I'm around you, you're motivated in places and ways that I'm not. So I'm always able to like look at that and be like, oh my God, these are the places and parts of my life I could improve in so many ways, right? I think what attracts me to you is your honesty, and just being in a space where people are honest is always a place I want to be. That's where I feel best. I feel best when people are real and honest. I feel safe with you for that reason. Honesty for me always makes me feel more safe. So I think that for you, there's just a level of comfort that I'm attracted to when I'm around you. In terms of body image, which we've talked about before, when I used to be so consumed with, how awful I felt I looked, I would always look at your body and be like, I want that body. And then, but at the same time, it's like, we're nowhere near the same bone structure or height or anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's not gonna happen. But at the same time, I always would, because I haven't been comfortable in my body, I would look at people who were comfortable in their body, people who would move in their bodies in certain ways. And there's always been this way that you've moved since I've taken some of your classes and watched you walk, that your comportment, your carriage is something that I aspire to. And that might be small to some people, but when you haven't lived in your body, comportment and carriage is like entirely important. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to always overcome my sunken chest because I'm, constantly just not wanting to be, So I think there's a physical comfort that I get from being around your actual body.
Yeah.
And then there's a mental stimulation I get. And also because I know, I don't want this to sound arrogant at all. This is the fucking Midwest.
Yeah.
Where, this is like, talk about brain drain and superficial and a lot of fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Every time I'm around with you, I feel obligated and I have this responsibility to be the deep friend for you, to be the one that's like, look, you don't have to like
Yeah.
fake it for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that we can call each other on shit.
Yeah.
Like what you told me today, you know, where you spoke to me today about very painful things. I just listened.
Yeah.
And I know that's what you needed at that time. Whereas normally I'm like, oh, I got this advice and that person's bullshit and don't listen to them and blah, 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 you know.
Yeah.
But there was something about today. It's like, there's nothing I have to contribute to what her pain is at right now.
Yeah.
So again, it was just, I was going to be the friend that you can't find in the Midwest. Like, that is my dream.
And you are.
I want to be the friend you can only find on the East Coast.
And and that's the thing is that's where you're the mystical woman in the robes, because for me, you're like an extraterrestrial to me. Like the moment I met you, I was just so like, I knew I wanted to be your friend, and I also wanted to show up in my best way. And I remember that one of the most like vulnerable conversations I had with you, and I didn't know why. I needed to know that you were okay or approved or had my back, is when I got my fucking boobs done.
Well, and the irony of all that is I'm telling you to feel comfortable in your body
Totally.
when that was my huge issue. Right.
Because for me, I was like, I went to all the people who would tell me, oh my God, girl, you're going to love it. You're going to be like, and then I just thought about when I thought about what
Are they going to hear my burps
body.
on this microphone?
Oh, they've already been like.
Oh, okay, I'm burping like mad. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry,
truly.
sorry. Very serious discussion about a boob job. Go ahead.
I know, right? So deep, boob jobs.
No, it really was. This was a good moment. This was a good moment.
No, it was, and I don't want to like make fun of it, but in the next breath, for me, it was about someone I sought a friendship with, and doing something that I always attributed with extreme vanity, extreme, just horrifying self-esteem, and ungrateful to God, because I'm like, God gave me a healthy body, a body that loves to move, a brain that loves to move, that gets off on moving. He gave me, I think, not a bad face. My only thing, God could give me more hair. It's starting to recede, and then perimenopause. But I won't ask for too much. And then I saw this woman I wanted to be friends with, and I thought to myself, oh God, I'm doubting myself about this thing. And I want to know what someone who I want to be friends with, who I actually respect, like every time she speaks, I want to know her opinion. I just wanted to know your opinion about it. And I wanted to know like what you thought. And that's, the approval seeking person who will never die in me. It just won't. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. I needed my friend's approval to enjoy doing it at age 43.
You needed your own approval.
I did. But in some ways, your approval.
Yeah, you had to bounce it off me to throw it back at you.
Yes.
Yeah, you needed a rebound rather than a launch.
I needed my boob.
And that's the thing is that like, I'm not for plastic surgery. You're like, I was the last person you should have called.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. What I understood in that conversation immediately was, this is something you've wanted. You brought up your sexuality.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a huge part of living.
Yeah.
Huge part of living. And what I could hear in what you were saying was that you felt incomplete.
Yeah.
And that you wouldn't know until this happened.
Yeah.
And that's all I could hear. And so it didn't matter what anybody else thought. It's about your completion, your body. These are your boobs. This is your sexuality. This is your expression. It's no one else's. It just fundamentally isn't.
Yeah.
So I think in that conversation, the best I did, I heard, first of all, I listened. That
Yes.
it wasn't, that all you needed was a little push to get it back into you, that you're making the decision.
Yeah.
But also that this wasn't, you just had to like have me there for a second.
Yeah.
And then I just remember saying, fuck them.
Yes. Fuck them.
Fuck them. And it's a very sacred thing to say. It's the Gandalf, you shall not pass.
Yes.
This is my fucking body.
100%.
Yeah.
And it gives me goosebumps that you're saying that.
And the Audre Lorde point I'm trying to make. So Audre Lorde being in the erotic, or it's the divine in the erotic, something. It's in the erotic. You can find it. It's an essay. It's fucking fabulous. It's amazing. It's written for women, feminist women. But at the same time, I think anybody can read it, especially people that haven't awakened to what their sexuality means.
Yeah.
Which isn't just sleeping with people and having orgasms.
Yes.
It's about being able to walk around in a body that's experienced the heights of pleasure. A body that's experienced the loss of lovers, a body that's experienced everything that possibly can happen within the realm of its own sexuality. And until women can honor and really conceive of that power, they can't fully be themselves. And as much as we shut down feminine sexual power, we shut down the totality of female living. And so what I could hear in your talking about your body was that you were missing this pinnacle that you thought could be there. And that you needed to try that. And then we talked about you can always get them removed.
Yep, totally. We 100%.
Got to leave that option open.
Yeah.
Well, what if it doesn't work? Well, then it doesn't work. You get them taken out.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
You have a scar. You found out. Whatever. So, because I knew it wasn't about boobs for you.
No.
It was a feeling. And so I think that essay would just encapsulate what you were feeling.
I'm so excited to read it because then, we were off conversation. We're talking about the WAP video. And I want to know what you
want to be
thought.
careful about WAP and make it WAP.
WAP.
Here's why. Because WAP's a derogatory term for Italians.
Oh, it is.
And so I always want to be careful about WAP because from the East Coast, without papers.
So is she saying WAP, or is she saying WAP, WAP?
I don't know what she's saying.
Wow, I don't know.
All I know is there's whores in this house.
And the macaroni and cheese and the vagina thing, I was like, oh,
macaroni in a pot.
All right. So let's talk about this.
Okay.
I want to talk about this. So I, at a time, bartended at a strip club, right? And I never got on stage.
I've never been in a strip club, so I always want to know. I want to know.
So you go in between the dancers, you clean the pole, you go back, you bartend, you serve your drinks, whatever. And I remember there was two actually that I just sat and I watched, and I was like, so much fear and so much like power. One went by the name of Harlow, and
of course she did.
Harlow, right? Blonde hair, like down to here. She started out like athletic body, and then one day she shows up with these like ease.
Yeah.
On this beautiful athletic form. The body could handle it, but it was like
we're at the edge.
They were at the edge
the
of
precipice.
Like the precipice of boobage. And this girl was so smart. Like she was taking herself through engineering school. She had this vibrant personality, and she never let the darkness, because strip clubs have a lot of darkness.
Oh, for sure.
She'd never let it get to her, and she's one of my best friends. And I remember one night in the back of like her Land Rover counting all of our tips. It was like that Hustler movie with J-Lo, and I was a waitress to kind of help her like, oh, there's another guy. Here's more champagne.
Right.
Let's get that. And at that time, we got audited, and we all had to pay a lot of fucking taxes.
Of course.
It was awful. But her and herself, her performance, who she was, she just was so daring on that pole. She like whipped her body around, those hair extensions, those boobs, and she did it with laughter. And then she had this cat that was actually like descended from a Bengal cat that like you'd go to her house and be like, "Rawr," and you'd be like, what the fuck? But she like knew how to tame this animal. And she just had every man like at her fingertips, and she had the best heart. And she was one of my best friends, and I miss her every day. And then there was another one, and I forget her name. I want to say it was like Madison or something like that. And she was the classy one who had like fans, and like she did the whole like old school thing. And I remember at that time, like Jenna Jameson, Tito Ortiz at that time were big parts of like that whole instance I was involved in, and just being so uncomfortable and and turned on at the same time of like, why can't I be sexy? And why do I have so much shame? And I've got to be a good girl and I'm a fucking whore. And how many times I read in my diaries referencing myself as like, that's whore-like behavior, or why am I working at this stupid place? And my family would be so ashamed. And just
you're suffering from male gaze.
Oh God, completely, just like, ugh. And then I watched the WAP video, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, I'm just like entranced again by this just like audacity
fucking A.
to be like, fuck you, and this is my
it's
ass.
the commanding.
It is.
It's that you will come here and I will sit down on that. You know, it's a commanding presence. It's saying, this is what I want. I know what I want.
Yep.
I know how to get it.
Yeah.
And whether you're there or not really doesn't matter.
Totally.
Like, you can be, and I'll tell you how to do it. But that's the thing is like, this is what, oh God, and so many, as they say, cis male white men clutch their pearls over this video like, oh, you can't do this, you know, and they don't understand that that's the most feminist thing that I've seen in forever, you know? It's that they're asking and telling. There's also not a male in the video.
No, there's not one.
It's what happens when men aren't around. And this is what we actually talk about.
Yes.
We actually get really dirty.
We do.
We get really dirty.
We totally do.
Talk about it.
Totally. And it's so great because we do
and
it
there's
with
power in
yes.
that. Okay, once you know, this is what Audre Lorde says, once you know how to please yourself, receive pleasure, all of those things about physical pleasure, it raises where you can go as a person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Especially because you know boundaries, limits. You know, you have the whole idea of Cardi B. I mean, first of all, there's so many symbols in what's happening in that video, but this whole idea where she just kind of like takes her finger and looks and sets it down right in the camera, like what people don't understand. This has never happened. Yeah. Like that's what they think that. Oh, it's a rap video, this and that. And I'm like, no. This whole thing.
Yeah.
This isn't a historic moment. But I want to say another thing about the Black community. Because Nicki Minaj did this before.
Yeah, she did.
And white people who don't listen and don't know, don't understand. This comes from a long trajectory of people who've actually broken that barrier 10 years ago. Yeah. And now we're leading up to a breaking in pop culture. So as soon as white people know about it, it's probably been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So anyway, if you watch the Nicki Minaj Anaconda video.
Yes.
Okay? No men.
Nope.
It's women discussing their pleasure, discussing their body parts, discussing what they're going to do or how they want it. So again, it's this whole thing of the Black community being honest about sexuality. Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, and Iyanla Vanzant have been the leaders of talking about sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And now we have the sexual awakening coming also from that community. So I think that we have to be aware that some people are just much more identified with how to use that sexual power in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. There's nothing unconsensual about the WAP video at all.
No.
You know?
No.
And it's also women observing other women. Right?
Yes.
So they're walking down the hallway, they're doing these peep show. These are like really typical like porn tropes, right? And the little trotting that they do.
Totally.
And all of this is old stuff that's being reused, right? So anybody that worked on this video, they're not schlepping in from fucking, Duluth like, hey, I just got to graduate from high school. These people went to art school. Yeah. These people did shit. So when you're watching this finished video, you have to understand that there's a whole history of art happening behind this that you just can't take it for granted. This isn't just another fucking video. And the idea of we can deal without Kylie. I'm sure Kylie got some kind of deal out of it. I don't know why she's walking down the hallway anyway, but we can skip over Kylie Kardashian.
Well, I won't skip completely over her because I do believe.
What does she add? Tell me.
She adds an element that is absolutely what I can say, like what you can say, the taking it is for what it is. I mean, that's the thing is I think when people watch and look at the Kardashians, right?
Yes.
The people who actually consume it, because I'm guilty as charged. I have Skims, I have Good American, I have a shitload of Kylie Cosmetics, and they're triggering for me in a lot of ways because they've got the Middle Eastern background. There's so many aspects of their life that I look at and I'm like, fuck. Why am I relating to this? Because I don't like there's a lot of things I don't like what they represent at all. Well, I'm glad to hear that you love them.
I love them in so many strange ways.
Yeah.
I could deal without them. I'm just saying, like, once they're here, I will pick them apart social science wise.
Oh, totally. And it's easy to. I think it's actually harder to defend them a lot of times. And I find myself defending my Kardashian appeal and my Gwyneth appeal a lot. But it's because there's something about them that allows me to not feel crushed. Like even Kim and Kanye, like he's properly having a fucking meltdown and mental
publicly.
And when it comes to having, I want to say, seeking mental wellness, because I don't like calling it an illness. I feel like it's just not right. I want people to seek their mental wellness. His mental health has been compromised. It was so put in this little box and put away, right? And I can't even imagine what it would have felt like to be him and her. And we all just kind of like laughed at it and was just like, oh, that's Kanye being Kanye and with Kim. And I was like, my heart just shattered into 1,000 pieces because what he said about his daughter and an abortion, I'm like, it's not like people haven't had those thoughts. People have had crazy fucking thoughts. And then they say it out loud. And I think going back to the WAP video, Kylie is like this person where I'm like, I don't know. When I see her, she's beautiful to look at. She seems to be, well, and again, I know she's, you can, this is someone who's just being, I'm giving you my thoughts, not deep thoughts. They're just my instant thoughts. She's pretty to look at. And she's somebody who she's the baby of a family that
youngest billionaire.
Yeah. And just, her sisters are all fucking iconic. Like in huge personalities and the fact that she just can walk through a video and I can be like, okay. I mean,
I'm not there yet.
I know. And I'm probably going to be crucified. People going to be like, Seraphiend, I'm not ever watching your podcast again.
No, I'm not. But the hallway issue, right? You see those cats on leashes.
Yeah.
The taming of that heat.
Yes.
All of that good stuff. I mean, really good symbolism. And also using the cat in terms of female arousal. So this is the other thing that's in this video that I think people aren't understanding, because every article I read about this video is all about the actual wetness of a pussy.
Yeah.
Like it's a medical condition or something. And that's fine. That's great.
Yeah.
But they're not talking about arousal. Like that's what this video is like. I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
And it's not just come hither. It's that I got a list of things I want you to do. So arousal is another thing people don't like. So the cat has been used in painting as a signifier of female arousal, and it's forbidden. I mean, it's like usually a black cat, right? And when you watch things of the male gaze getting switched around through history and painting, you watch this shift in the way women sit, the way women look at the viewer, and the way the cat kind of comes into the picture.
Yeah.
And so these things get combined in that WAP video in ways that are really interesting because so I don't know, let me explain. Male gaze, right? Male gaze is the concept that women throughout history have been portrayed, written, painted, depicted through the lens of the male. So when you look at paintings from any given century, a male person painted that. So they're painting through the lens of what they think a woman should look like, right? So when you're having feelings about, I feel like such a whore, I wish I could be something else, it's often because the male society has given us a choice of whore or housewife. And those aren't authentically roles that we can actually organically come up with. It's what we've been fed to think that we can categorize ourselves into from a different lens, right? So when you look at things like Papa Don't Preach, Express Yourself video, to an extent like a prayer, they're taking the male gaze and flipping it, right?
Yeah.
So she's in control. So when you look at WAP, you're watching her explore her own pleasure, not for you.
Yeah.
She's not there to be turned on for you.
Totally.
And so that's when you watch the flip of the male gaze. That's why it's a little bit disturbing. That's why the Express Yourself video is so disturbing.
Oh, and that's the hard thing for me is that video for me is probably one of the most beautiful. I play that song more in my classes. I even bought the Pinnacle and I wore it and I was young at the time. I don't even know if I remember and you made reference to it in one of your talks about her being chained to the bed.
That picture of her being chained to the bed was on every single primetime news.
And it was ridiculous. Because that's the other thing that's been also very hard for me is in my own sexuality, that feeling of when you think about dominant and submissive, everyone thinks that if there's a part of you that wants to be submissive, that means that it's like a rape scene and or that you're being tortured. And I think that that's where a lot of complications come. I just had this beautiful woman, her name is Landon. She's a newly woman, transgender, who was this literally just a few weeks ago. She got the papers. She's now legally female. And we were talking, and I remember us having in the conversation this thing about sexuality and how with transgender, a lot of people just immediately go to the freak box that they like to be whipped and like violence and submissive, and they because what? It's a man and he's a freak and he's in a wig. And then I thought about myself and I thought about like dominance versus submissive, and I'm actually more a submissive person. I like the feeling of a man, right? But because I have such a dominant husband and because we argue and like we're very fiery and I can be dominant myself, when it becomes to intimacy, the feeling of him around me being protected, it's not about me being a weak woman and it's not about me being chained to a bed. So when I remember seeing that video and being like, but there's two sides of me. I can wear a fucking suit, but I can also... I want to be safe. I mean, obviously nobody wants to be in an unsafe place in their sexuality, but it was such a complicated image for me because I loved, like when I say I loved Madonna, like I would
of course
argue,
right,
like almost to the point now where I am with Gwyneth Paltrow,
part
where
of
I'm
the people that raised us, right?
I'm like,
exactly.
You go to war for them because I'm like, no, I really understand where you're coming from. So with Madonna, what did you think about it as a kid, and like what did it as a younger woman? Because we're the same.
So I was in high school, and Express Yourself video came right out before Blonde Ambition, the Truth or Dare documentary, which I saw 3 times in the theater. Had to. Everything about her was amazing. And I remember when they showed the image of her in the chain, I was like, but they're not getting the whole video.
Yeah.
So again, Bible verse taken out of context
Yes.
to manipulate and control people, and you're not getting the full. So here I am. This is why storytelling is activism. If you don't get the full story, you don't understand the point of what she's trying to say. She made a video that lasted 4 minutes and however many seconds, right? You have to watch all of that to get the point. She didn't just make one image and that was the whole point of the video, right?
Totally.
Watch it all. She's in a position of power, extreme power. This is a factory, right? Not only that, there's a lot of men in this
There's
factory.
a ton of men.
And they're really good dancers. And, she handpicked all of them, of course, whatever, right? But you get these tales of her, right? So she makes sure in her PR that those things leak.
Yeah.
So you see that she's also the boss of the video.
Totally. But the other image in that video, back to the cat, is the milk.
Yeah.
Dripping. I remember just being like, it was such a beautiful image. There was no shame.
No.
I think that's where, when I watched that video, I wasn't, at that time when I watched it, there was not embarrassment and there was not shame.
No.
I think when I watched the WAP or WAP video, I knew you guys are going to be like, you're so white. When I watch it, there's a little bit of like she's so exposed. Like it's so exposed.
Yeah.
And it's like, it goes back to my therapy of me being too much.
Yeah. But good art should always stretch you. Good art should always make you feel a little bit uncomfortable for the right reasons. not
Totally.
for the wrong reasons. But going back to express yourself, I remembered inherently that when I saw the picture of her in chains, I was like, these adults, they don't seem to get that, like, she's the boss of the factory.
Totally.
She's the boss.
Totally.
So her submissiveness is a choice based on the job of being the boss. So there's an interconnection here that she's trying to make.
Yes.
She's trying to show a point of two binary things and how these work together. And the cat thing, like I didn't know that part of a lot of S&M stuff is the crawl on all fours situation. I mean, I'm not into it, so I don't know. But like, I mean, if you ask me if I'm a dominant or submissive, I'm kind of like neither. I'm just, I don't know.
I had a student.
Crazy.
I had a student back in New York who was one of, I mean, I don't know, she may still be, but she was one of the most coveted dominatrixes. And I remember she baked me cookies.
A lot of them are in New York.
It's hilarious. She baked me, and she's a great pastry chef. And she gave me the impression she was a pastry chef. And she does have a little pastry kitchen in her dungeon. But I learned a lot from her just by having her in my class and questioning her and what it means. Because a lot of times, again, I associated this freakishness and that it's torture. And and there are some elements to it that can be, again, you need a therapist after that frickin' session. But then there are things where I'm like, I think sexuality is so interesting right now because it feels so dead. Like I just don't like. And when I say dead is, I saw the video.
I think it feels very 8 minutes.
Yeah, yes.
I'm not quite at sexuality being dead, but sexuality feels very 8 minutes to me.
And it feels very like so many fucking filters on it.
It feels very just cartoon orgasm only, and we just get the attraction and we're there. And it's like, wow.
And it feels cartoonish.
There's a whole way of living in it,
And I'd love
totally cartoonish, anime
yes,
shit. Yes,
it is. It's anime sex, and I'm like,
okay.
fuck.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you watch Love on the Spectrum,
yes,
okay,
loved
fascinating.
It.
Loved. I think I told you about it, right?
Yeah, both of us were.
I mean, it was so deep and amazing.
Yeah.
But what I was so fascinated by was a lot of the sexist kind of formulations of women in some of the men's minds.
Totally.
Sort of preoccupation with physical attributes and things like that. I mean, a lot of them, it's not through any fault of their own, it's the society. But a lot of the fascination with anime.
Yes. I mean, they all loved it.
And I was like, women don't look like that for real.
No.
And they're having the same trouble that a lot of like guys who are not on the spectrum are having in pornography. I'm so, like, that like sex isn't like that for real.
It's amazing to me too how I mean, now I'm really going there. Mom and Dad, not your episode. But like the first time I freaking watched like I remember the closest thing I ever got to watching like a full length one was like elf fantasy porn.
What?
It was bizarre. So
Good
it was
for you.
And it wasn't
you
real
got that
people.
on your list now. Good.
It was literally like it was, and they were like beautiful. They looked like these Barbie dolls. Like I used to collect these dolls called Glamour Gals, and they were like mini Barbies. So like these are like little mini Barbie fairy cartoon characters. And then they're like huge tits and gorgeous asses. And then they have like crazy hair and these perfect wings. And then there's like the Beastmaster, and he's there and he's kind of weird looking. And some of them are like really dark, like it could be a big black man, or like white and like albino strange. And some of them are ogres, some of them are elves, but they have these huge, massive things. And then you're watching this and these beautiful like cartoons of these beautiful women having like cartoon sex with ogres and weird elves that are like, and I'm like, people are getting off on this shit. And I'm watching it till the end and being like, why am I watching this? Why am I watching this? And then also this fascination of like being so beautiful. And then this ugly ogre, like the mythology behind that shit of like loving the asshole Beauty and the Beast, and or Sleeping Beauty, you got to be knocked out on Xanax for however to find Prince Charming. I'm like, I just wish that sex, like I think the last time I really watched something that I was like, damn, like that's hot was Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone, Basic Instinct, Sliver. That woman.
Okay, so Sharon Stone's a perfect example of a woman with a high sex drive, major intelligence, and somebody who could unify it and use it for her power.
And she got destroyed.
Because she also made a number of decisions that were against her power.
Totally.
And she will say that to you.
Yeah, totally.
But she was unified. She had it. She
totally did.
I mean, she totally had it. Okay, so let's go back. Like Bessie Smith.
Ugh.
So looking for the word integration,
Yeah.
right? The person who has their sexuality integrated.
Yeah.
Bessie Smith was one. Janis Joplin.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay, viewers, people who are listening, do me a favor. There's a documentary with Mick Jagger. It's not the Martin Scorsese one. It's the one that happened. I think it's Gimme Shelter, the Rolling Stone documentary, right?
Yep.
Not the Martin Scorsese one, the one from a long time ago.
I think
it's about the Monterey Pop Festival where the guy gets killed. Mick Jagger's looking over footage of Tina Turner because they're editing it. And Tina Turner does to a microphone stand what she's showing you she would do to a man. And it's one of the most amazing pieces, not only of rock history, but of female sexuality.
Yeah.
And Mick's watching it. And there's a number of things going on in the background, but the camera and Mick keep coming back to Tina because she's doing this thing that, like, you can't even, like, whoa, who does that?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like her mouth and lips are encapsulating the whole crowd into her whole, like, let's do this together.
Yeah.
And Mick keeps looking at her going, sometimes it's good to have a woman. Meaning that he knew he was in charge of sexuality at the time. He was the sex symbol. And that he could, like, look at her femaleness.
Yeah.
Sort of, if we can say that, even. But, okay, let's put it this way. A version of sexuality not always represented. Fairly.
Totally.
Fairly.
God, and isn't it weird, too, when you find yourself getting a lady boner over something that you're like it's not... Like normally, when I think about my
lecturer on Middle East or on the medieval, the High Middle Ages.
Oh my God,
Dr. Professor Delater, if you're listening,
I love you.
I just want to tell you, I know you're married, but
I know.
Dr. Philip Delater, I just have a thing
you.
for you, and you're a medievalist, and I just think I need to date medievalists.
Totally. It's so bizarre when you're like, I am so attracted to you, and why the fuck am I attracted?
Because I'm a sapiosexual.
So what's sapiosexual?
Sapiosexuals are people that are only attracted to others that are intellectual. And then there's demisexual, which I also am, which is that you don't find the sexual bond until you've emotionally shared something with each other.
Yeah,
you can have sex with anybody, right?
Yeah.
Anybody can have sex with anybody. It's more like, can you be turned on, aroused, and engaged? And so you have to be intellectual and emotionally connected for me to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's amazing because I love it when someone is so at ease with themselves and they just are like they're not even aware. They're so unaware that they're doing it, and they're
confidence.
And they're just in their body. And a lot of times, the funny thing is, I've never been one of those people that have coveted someone else's person. So a lot of times when I see, like, if they're in a relationship, instantly my lady boner goes away. Like I've never really been that way.
Right.
But it's funny, there are people that I look at and I look at them in a whole other way of like, I bet it'd be really cool to be in a relationship with them. And I find myself a lot with women where I'm like, I don't want to be with a woman, but there's a few women in my life
Can
who
you
I'm
imagine
like,
a relationship with a woman?
Oh my God.
That's how I know when I'm hetero. I am so hetero when I think of the whole idea of waking up next to a woman and like getting ready with them.
I know.
No.
I'd be like, get out of the way.
That never happened.
Let go of my Tom Ford lipstick.
Right.
But it's crazy because I do. The other thing is voices. God, when someone's got a good voice and you can fall asleep to them, or they just say something to you. That's why, like, when people get like yelly or like lectury or whatever, like I just love it when someone gets either like that wine drunk and they're really in their deep register, or they just they're talking, they get excited, but they slow it down. Because there's not, a lot of times when I talk and I get excited, I'm like, God, I get like him. It's like digging up something in the back. Did you find something back there? But like, you get that fast, panicked talking. Sorry, I'm looking at my dog right now. He's behind me digging behind this plant that's fake, but I think he thinks there's something in there.
He found.
But
a spot.
anyway, it's just interesting because I've been thinking a lot about it, and then there are these moments where I look at my husband, and I just love like these moments where his voice gets a little soft or deep, or he gets a little not too drunk because when he gets too drunk he gets weird, but he gets this like sleepy eye thing, but his voice is just so sweet. And there are words, and the lady boner goes up, and I feel that way so much now. Of like, wow, like when I look at the anime shit and people like going on RedTube or YouTube, all those like 3-minute clips. I'm like, how the fuck do people like? I mean, I guess just to get off, but like, it's so great to be in love.
Yeah, it's pleasure over connection. So people get tricked into thinking pleasure is enough.
Yeah,
and they haven't made a connection.
And how great would it be to like have that with someone that you're like
connected with?
Oh God,
I know.
And not on a swipe right or left. They're right in frickin' front of you. But COVID, I guess, And what is it? What is it? The swiping one? I've never
Tinder?
been on Tinder. I mean, I guess Tinder's for somebody right now. Because hell, if I was single, I'd be looking at some pictures. I'd be like,
I mean, I did, but still didn't find a connection.
No. Yeah. No, I've just never done it. I can't say what I would or wouldn't do, but I don't like being alone. So.
I don't mind being alone.
I know. You told me you're Scandinavian weirdo. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'll be in my fjord in the winter forever.
Yeah, I don't mind being alone at all. Because I don't ever feel alone. I never feel alone.
Have you ever been to Iceland?
No, but I really want to go.
I could imagine you with those little buns that Bjork wore in a fjord.
I would just want to go to the ice
with
bar
a bearded man.
Yeah, and I want to go to all the Game of Thrones places. And I would definitely have to find a man to kiss.
Yeah.
So I'd find a man to kiss and get a picture at those places.
Yeah. It'd be a bearded man. I totally can see you with like a big bearded, like Paul Bunyan type.
Fine. I'm all into Paul Bunyan types.
I love it. Well, I'll bring Johnny and we'll be in our Gucci sweaters, and we'll be like, it's cold.
Gucci sweaters. Of course,
we like you know us, and I'll be like, girl, I knew you'd pay for this vacation, even though you're making fun of me. I swear, if you aren't like one of, I wish, honestly, whoever's out there, this woman, the wealth of knowledge. If you have questions about religion, if you just want someone to talk to about feeling different, something happened in your life and you want to make sense of it and you want to make it right, or you want to move forward or past or into something, this woman, you have done me such a service. And I want you more on this podcast. I want more times together. I can't wait for the next one after people have kind of established like our friendship to talk about who you are as an activist.
Got to talk about the scary stuff
and the history of your life, because it has really has made you a divine individual in my life. So I can't wait.
Thank you
for more episodes with you. And I'm literally, after we get off today, we're scheduling it with Giovanna to talk, because the educational part of you, like this is like the fun stuff that will like make you listen to the educational part. Because if you actually read the title of the podcast episode, what she'll be talking about with me, a lot of people will be like, fuck, not today, it's over my head. The way she talks about dealing with loss, the way she talks about dealing with compromise with loved ones, like when they do something wrong, the way she talks about conflict in religion, it makes you feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because these are topics that literally could drown you or make you feel like you've got nothing to live for. And I've had some really big moments, and I had one with her just literally 2 hours ago. I found out that my father was diagnosed with ALS, and this woman held the space for me. And she's also somebody who, when she gives the advice, because of what she's been through in her life. I'm telling you now, listen to the next episode that she's on, because she's like the light at the end of the tunnel. She'll give you some things that you can hold on to in your life that are just things that sometimes you just forget that you've always had within you, because she's reminded me. So
thank you.
I love you so freaking much. And I'm glad we had like a fun girly episode.
Yeah.
I'm glad we talked about sex. I'm glad we didn't get too crazy deep yet, because we will go there. We don't want to we've already shocked people, I think, that I told them I watched elf porn.
Yeah,
but anyway.
elf ogre porn.
Ogre porn.
We have to be specific here. It's a very specific genre.
Yes. Oh my God. I swear I'm never going to get any celebrity on here, because they're going to be like, that chick is fucking weird. Or like can you imagine a politician? They'd be like the elf ogre porn podcast girl. But anyway, I love you.
Thank you. Love you too.
I love you so, so much. And I cannot wait. And will you be on another podcast with me?
I'll be on 5 other podcasts.
Yay! I love it. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Seraphiend Podcast. Please like and subscribe. And I will like and subscribe to you back. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.